When you create an on-demand lesson, there are 4 things to think about: capturing video, capturing audio, editing and publishing, and then posting your video online. This lesson will cover the first 2 of those, capturing the video and capturing the audio. If at any point in this lesson you understand the material, fast forward to the next section. If you're having trouble with it, back up and re-watch. That's one of the key advantages of an on-demand lesson. So let's look now at capturing video. What you use to capture video will depend on your budget. If you have no budget, you're going to need to see what's available for checkout in your media center, or perhaps what you have available at home or can borrow from a friend. If you have some budget, then you're going to want to think about what to purchase, keeping in mind some topics around audio that we're going to talk about in the next section. So let's look at some camera choices you might consider. The most readily accessible camera might be on a mobile device. Cell phones and tablets these days usually come with a camera, and the footage that they take are pretty good. Often there is a rear-facing and a front-facing camera. If you have a rear and a front-facing camera, use the rear-facing camera. It usually provides better video quality. Moving up from there, you might have access to a webcam, and these are often installed on a laptop. If you have one, there will be a small circular disc here that is the lens to the camera. If you don't have one built into a laptop, you might have access to a webcam, and these of course plug into a computer, and they're designed to sit up on a monitor or attached to a platform where they can sit on a table or shelf. Moving up from there are our still image cameras. So these are designed to take pictures, not videos, but they'll take decent videos. And you can start on a low end with a little point and shoot designed to be real portable, or you can go all the way up to a digital SLR camera. Again, the quality of video is going to vary, and the quality that you get from the DSLR is actually pretty high quality. Moving up from there are digital video cameras. Now these are the tools that are designed to do the job that you're doing, to capture footage that's in motion. So as you're thinking about your options, all the things that I've mentioned will give you video quality that will probably work for you. As you move up the chain from mobile device to webcam to still image cameras to the video cameras, your image quality is probably going to improve. So if you have access to them, I would recommend you going with a still image camera that captures video, or even better, a video camera. Now, the 2 things to think about with these 2 are primarily the focus. The still image cameras, especially the DSLRs, are going to give you very, very good video quality, maybe even better than the video camera that you have access to. But they aren't going to do as good a job staying in focus. So if you're moving around, especially if you're moving forward or backwards in the field of view, you are more likely to come out of focus with a still image camera than you are with a video camera. Now you're probably going to come in and out of focus a little bit with this, but it's going to correct more quickly. If you have access to a still image camera, I would start there. I wouldn't go and spend money on a video camera. Try the still image camera first and see if that will do the job. Again, you're not making movies, you're just making a lesson. So that's the most economical way to start. If you're going to make a purchase decision anyway, you might look at the digital video cameras first. Once you've chosen your camera, there are a couple things to think about while you're filming. The first is keep the camera still. If your camera bobs and weaves and wanders, you potentially could make your audience sick, and you're at least going to distract them a little bit from whatever it is you're trying to teach. So the easiest way to keep your camera still is to set it on a flat surface like a shelf or a table or a stack of books. Something that's going to keep it where you want it and not be moved. That, of course, is not quite as good as a tripod, because I can move a tripod around pretty easily and get the camera exactly where I want it to be. That shelf or that table may not be very easily movable. So tripods are fairly inexpensive, although you can spend a lot on them, there's not really a need to. And they're very portable. And once I get the camera attached to the top, I can move it around to get it just the way I need it. So keep it still one way or the other. The next thing to think about when you're filming is how high to set the camera. If you set the camera too low, you're going to be looking down at it, and that could cause your eyelids to drop, and you'll see more eyelid than you see eye. If you get the camera too high, you're going to wind up craning your neck, and you may look unnatural. So you want to get the camera at the right height, and generally the height of your eyes is the right place to put it. That way you're looking straight ahead. The third thing to think about when you're filming is lighting. Now this is one of those topics that's deep and wide and separates professionals from us amateurs, and we're not trying to be professionals. So what you want to look for are shadows that you can't live with. And when you find them, where do you need to put a light to fill in those shadows? Probably the best example is going to be your eye sockets and underneath your chin. Because if you're filming in your classroom and using your overhead lights, which is probably fine, that's where your shadows are going to show up. And if that happens, and if you can't live with it, then just put a lamp somewhere out there to the right or to the left of your camera and let that light fill in those shadows. Typically you want that light to be behind your camera if you can make that work. Otherwise, as long as you can see what's going on, your lighting is fine. That covers capturing the video. Now let's look at capturing the audio. I don't know if you were alive or not, but in 1979, the Buggles put out a hit song called Video Killed the Radio Star. That song hit the nail on the head. Visual plus auditory is much more powerful than just the auditory. Think about learning styles. When you include the visual element, you've opened the door to all your visual learners, and you haven't closed out any of your auditory learners. In fact, you've only enhanced their experience. So video really is more powerful than audio, and that's why we're not covering podcast in this series. But what may be counterintuitive is that audio is still king. And that's because even in a video, most of the content is coming through the audio. So if you have a lesson that's got only tolerable video, but pretty good audio, your learners are going to be fine. The reverse is not true, however. If you've got stellar video quality, but your audio quality is really low, then you're going to have frustrated learners. So when you are making choices, especially if you're making a purchase, you want to prioritize your audio capture over your video capture. So let's talk about options for capturing audio. The easiest approach is to use the microphone built into your camera. Every digital video camera will have a microphone built in, and most still image cameras will as well. This approach comes with a challenge, however, and that challenge is a trade-off between how much space you can capture in your field of view and what the quality of your audio is. If I am up close, I'm going to sound better in my audio, but I'm capturing a smaller field of view. So I may have to pan and tilt a little bit to get all the visuals in that I want to get. If I back up, now I can capture a much larger field of view and probably don't have to pan and tilt at all, but I'm further away from the camera's microphone now, and I might not sound as good. So let me show you two clips that illustrate this. In the first clip, I'm going to back up from a speaker. And one thing you'll notice is that the field of view grows, so I can include more things in a lesson as I move further away without having to pan and tilt. You'll also notice that the audio quality drops, primarily in volume. And as I move further away, I'm picking up sounds that are close to the camera but that are not at all in the lesson. So you'll hear a little side conversation and maybe a shout from the hallway that floats in, and those things get picked up on an onboard microphone. So let's look at that.
The Penn Griffin School for the Arts Learning Community is committed to being a premier 6 through 12 school for the arts by working together, challenging our potential, nurturing responsibility, celebrating diversity, and modeling lifelong.
Now let's look at the second clip. This clip is actually two segments of the same lesson filmed from different distances. In the first segment, we filmed the lesson from a distance where we can capture all of the visuals in the field of view without having to pan or tilt the camera. In the second segment, we filmed the same lesson closer up, which should give us better audio, but we're going to have to pan and tilt a little bit to get all the visuals. So I've cut the audio out, primarily because I want you to focus on the effect of panning and tilting. So I'm not saying that using an onboard microphone is a bad idea. It may work just fine for the camera you've chosen. You're just going to want to be smart about that trade-off between what you capture in your field of view and the quality of your audio. Again, I would prioritize the audio over the video. So if you need to get closer and that means you pan and tilt a little bit, that's going to be better than being further back where you don't have to pan and tilt, but where you don't sound as good in the lesson. There are ways to get around this trade-off, however. One of those is to use a USB microphone. And that's going to plug into a computer, and you will then capture your video on your camera and your audio using your computer. This gets around that trade-off because now the camera can be whatever distance I need it to be from the lesson, and it won't have any impact on the audio quality. Now the USB approach comes with its own challenge, and that's going to show up in the editing process. Your camera is going to create a video file, and your computer is going to create the audio file. Then when you go to editing your video, you're going to have to make sure you synchronize these so your lips match up with the audio. If you take this approach, one way to do that is to clap very visibly and very loudly at the beginning of your lesson. And what that will do is in your audio file will create a large spike in the audio, and you can then line that up with the video. So the moment that your hands meet in your clap, that's where you want to line up the spike in that audio, and things should be more or less aligned. So let's talk about a couple of the USB options. The first would be a lavalier microphone. It would attach to your clothing. A cable would run down the inside of your clothing and out to the computer. Another would be to get a higher quality microphone that sits out in front of you, or perhaps off to the side, or even could be attached to a boom using this screw and held over your head. This is going to capture richer audio than a lavalier microphone because the microphone itself is larger. The other advantage to that is that it could be used in screencasts. Of course, the disadvantage is you're going to pay a little more for a standalone USB microphone. In either case, the cables on these USB microphones are typically pretty short. So if you go this route, you're going to want to get an extender so that you can actually reach the computer. The third approach to capturing audio that I want to talk about is the wireless microphone. Now, a wireless microphone solves the challenges of the other approaches that I've mentioned, but not surprisingly is the most expensive of all the options. With the wireless microphone, I break out of this trade-off between being close to the camera and being heard, but not having a lot in my field of view, and pulling the camera back where I capture a lot in my field of view, but I can't be heard. I can move as far away from my camera with a wireless mic as I want to, and I can still be heard very well. I also don't have the limitations of having to have a computer with me or a long cord to capture everything I'm saying as I would if I used a USB lavalier microphone. The other nice thing is that my wireless microphone is transmitting my audio back to the camera, and the camera's recording it all in one file, so I don't wind up like I would with the USB microphone with having to match up my audio and my video in editing. So with a wireless microphone, I'm able to go outside. I could go to the Battleground Park and do an entire lesson that shows the whole battlefield while I'm standing in the middle of it talking to you. I couldn't do that with any other form of audio capture. You'll also notice that there are cars going by, and the nice thing about that is if I was using my onboard microphone, of course you wouldn't hear me at all, first of all, but second of all, those cars that are driving near the camera and by me would be much more audible. Because I'm using a lavalier style microphone, it's designed to capture what's right around me and not what's near the camera. So those noises surely floated in, and you heard those when they came by, but they weren't as pronounced as they would be on an onboard microphone, because an onboard microphone is designed to capture everything that floats by it. So a wireless microphone is the best option. It is the more expensive option. I would tell you that you can spend less than $100, and that's probably too little, and you can spend more than $1,000, and that's too much. What you're going to want to do is talk to people who use these things, read some reviews before you make a purchase decision. That wraps up our lesson on capturing video and audio for your on-demand lessons.